Greetings again everyone. Samyang recently launched a new line of camera lenses which have some unique features for video shooters who also want to use autofocus. Today I'm presenting the latest one, their V-AF 100mm T2.3. And roughly translated, T2.3 is probably about f2 or f2.2, something like that. Along with Samyang's other V-AF lenses, it has the same kind of characteristics, size and approximate weight, and the same price at about $650 or about £550 here in the UK. Samyang plan to release two more, a 20mm and a 45mm version, all with the same characteristics. I'd like to thank Samyang's UK distributor for loaning me this lens for testing for a couple of weeks, although as usual this is a totally independent review. Here is some sample footage to show you the lovely perspective that a 100mm T2.3 lens on a full-frame camera can get you. It's ideal, as you can see, for subject isolation and getting a bit of an out-of-focus background. Looks lovely, actually. It took me a little while to completely get my head around Samyang's vision for these new V-AF lenses when they first hit the market earlier this year. They are not quite cine lenses in the true sense of the word. For example, they suffer from a bit of focus breathing and they don't have quite the same optical quality you'd expect from a traditional, admittedly more expensive cine lens. They also don't have dedicated aperture rings, although it's likely that Samyang will one day release a special aperture ring to fit onto the front of this lens via that front electronic connector. Ultimately, these are normal autofocus lenses, but with features that are optimized for video work, alongside all being the same size and lightweight of 280 grams or so, along with a similar center of gravity for homogeneous balance, which could be useful for people using electronic gimbals. They also all have the same front filter thread size of 58mm, and Samyang say that their color balance is all calibrated correctly. Here are some of this lens's features for video making. Its rubberized focus ring turns smoothly and with a linear response to being turned, making it much more appropriate for focus marking and follow focus systems, although there are no hard stops at the ends of the focus range. That focus ring can also be switched on the side to control your aperture, and those aperture changes happen quite nice and smoothly. When shooting in manual focus, the motor responds a little slowly to being turned, but it does get you there correctly on the linear scale. Let's take a look at focus breathing for a moment. Unfortunately, this is where the 100mm lens doesn't live up to cine lens standards, as we see quite a bit of focus breathing here. The front and sides of these lenses have recording indicator lights. They turn green when your camera is turned on and set to video mode, and they turn red when you're recording, which is potentially useful in a multi-camera setup or just for checking that you really are recording. At the front of the lens there's also an electronic connector for accessories. When it comes to autofocus, the lens works quickly, quietly and accurately when autofocusing, and it seemed to have no noticeable problems in my tests with tracking subjects. The lens is dust and splash resistant with a weather sealing gasket around its rear mount. The lens comes with a plastic front lens cap which fits on quite nice and tightly. Overall, the lens is lightweight, well designed, and its features may or may not be useful for some video makers. Let's take a look at its image quality now. I'll be testing it on a Sony a7R III camera with its 42MP full-frame sensor. In camera corrections are turned on. At T2.3, the lens is razor sharp in the middle with excellent contrast. Happily, the corner image quality is very nice also, although admittedly a little softer. T2.8 looks the same, and so does T4, but T5.6 now looks razor sharp in the corners. The lens stays this sharp down to T16 or T22, where a bit of softness emerges due to diffraction. Overall though, excellent sharpness here. This is more than enough for 4K or even 8K video making, and this 100mm lens is actually nicely sharper than the other options currently available in Samyang's V-AF series. It's the sharpest one. Alright, let's turn off in-camera corrections and see about the lens's vignetting and distortion. The good news is that even at the maximum aperture, vignetting isn't especially noticeable. However, pincushion distortion is moderate here. Stop down to T4 and those corners brighten somewhat. Let's see about close-up image quality now. The lens gets you decently close to your subject, but at T2.3, contrast has bottomed out, as you can see. T2.8 isn't really any better, although T4 sees an improvement, and finally T5.6 looks sharp, close-up. Let's see how the lens works against bright lights now, and the answer is really well. Good job, Samyang. Flaring is under control here. When it comes to bokeh, well, what do you think? I think this lens's out-of-focus backgrounds are generally looking pretty gorgeous and smooth here. There's nothing I could really criticize, quite frankly. Finally, related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. Unfortunately, that is strong on this lens, as you can see from T2.3. T2.8 and T4 look about the same, but T5.6 shows an improvement, and at T8, finally, that colour fringing is gone, so a poor performance in that particular area. Overall though, the Samyang V-AF 100mm T2.3 is actually a very impressive lens. In fact, for 4K video making it's actually over-spec'd. Loads of sharpness and good contrast, even when faced against bright light, and lovely smooth quality bokeh all team up to make it a bit of a winner. The only area where the lens really tripped up was in close-up image quality, but you can always stop the aperture down to f5.6 or so to improve that. Oh, and its longitudinal chromatic aberration was pretty ugly too. Apart from that though, this is actually the best quality Samyang V-AF lens, and its great image quality combined with a couple of technical party tricks for video making that mean it could be a real nice option for any kind of video work, or even stills photography. So it definitely comes recommended. Blah blah blah, thanks for watching, blah 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 Patreon, blah 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 link in the description below, and most of all, thank you to my Patreon supporters for helping me keep this channel going sponsorship free for about 12 years now. Take care and God bless everyone.